This is kind of the other half of the ambulance question. For those of you who may not realize, there is a vote November 8th that covers these offices, but there's also a vote in Silver Creek Township regarding a special assessment district that would support Sister Lakes Fire Department. That vote is going before the public. So what in essence it is Silver Creek lost tax dollars for the ambulance service. And the board in Silver Creek is asking the residents to come up with the money to support the ambulance service and continue. So the question is directed to all of you. Should the special assessment district not pass in Silver Creek Township, what would your actions be relative to the results? Let's go down here.
Well, a little bit hard question for me to answer, but I feel that the situation in Silver Creek Township was forced by one person by not putting the ambulance on for the last election for a millage. For years it's always been the fire and ambulance millage. This year ambulance was wiped from that and turned over to fire and police millage. That was one of the reasons I believe myself, and this is just my opinion, the only way Silver Creek Township could get rid of Sister Lakes. Even though they sent out their questionnaires and the people said they wanted to stay with Sister Lakes, they still opted to figure a way to get rid of the monies that supported it. So they took ambulance off the millage and put police in its place instead. And if anybody doesn't believe me, just go over to the Silver Creek Township Hall. I believe they meet the second Wednesday of every month, and you can ask that board.
I'm not sure how to answer that. As I said, my son works for Pride Care, but I really, to me, as long as the ambulance service can do the job equally, one over the other, it wouldn't matter to me. As far as my taxes going up, I don't think I like that very much.
That's exactly the gamble that the Keeler Township Board did not want to take, because it's clearly evident based on budgets that the Sister Lakes ambulance cannot operate with just the call volume that would either be just Keeler Township or just the north half of Silver Creek Township. So the only viable way without having a dramatic increase in taxes for whatever township would end up having Sister Lakes ambulance by themselves would have to somehow make up that budget shortfall. So our board didn't want to take that gamble, but I believe the $90,000 millage that was in Silver Creek came to an end because it had been put in place prior to the south half of the township deciding to go with Dowagiac when Pride Care became the ambulance provider for Dowagiac. And they could not collect a township-wide millage that was only supporting half of the township. So it wasn't a matter of them shifting the millage over to a different area of public services. They legally could not collect a millage from the whole township that only supports half of the township. I'm seeing a nod back there. I'm assuming my answer is somewhat correct. So that being said, the north half of Silver Creek Township has the choice to make. Do we want to have an ambulance service and not have to provide any tax subsidies, or do we want to provide $143,000 that if Keeler Township doesn't have a majority of people supporting Sister Lakes ambulance to nullify that contract, Silver Creek residents are going to somehow have to make up that difference, going up to $270,000, $280,000. That is the current Sister Lakes operating budget, but they won't even have that's based on the call volume that would be provided by all of Keeler Township and the north half of Silver Creek. So we have to keep in mind this is again, getting back to fiscally responsible, who's going to pay for a service? And why should we have to pay for a service when in the contract they can provide, it's not free. I keep hearing this word free on a service. There's nothing free about this service. They take 40,000 non-emergency wheelchair transfer calls, and it's that money that makes up the difference of the tax subsidy because of their sheer volume. It's, again, not a knock on Sister Lakes Ambulance, it's just a matter of how they're able to replace that tax subsidy that is needed to fund Sister Lakes Ambulance. So yeah, this millage in Silver Creek is absolutely critical, particularly to the residents of Silver Creek. Because if all three candidates that support Sister Lakes Ambulance are not elected in Keeler Township, where's that? They're going to need more than $143,000. That's how I feel about that.
Well, I agree with everything you've said so far. We do have a county-wide millage, and the last vote on that was 8,125 people for the millage and 33 against the millage in the county. And Keeler had 213 for and only 80 against the millage. So I would assume that next time it comes to a vote with those kind of numbers, that money will still be coming in. But any shortfalls, I think I would first have to talk to the fire department to see just exactly how much money they need to get by on.
My answer would be very similar to Tim's here. If we're faced with that, if Silver Creek does not vote to continue Sister Lakes Ambulance and with that millage, I get elected, or whoever gets elected to the board, the people come to the board and say, we want Sister Lakes Ambulance back. We have to go to Sister Lakes Ambulance and find out how much money they need to run their program. And then when we find that out, besides the $108,000 from Keeler Township that would go towards ambulance service, we have to find out what the difference is and then bring it back to the people and say, do you want Sister Lakes Ambulance back? And if so, this is what will be expected, or what we will need to come up with, either on a special assessment or increased millage. So it's a tough question.
Yeah, I think we need to get rid of the arrogance that we used to have in the township board, which I think we've accomplished part of that. I think we need a township board that's willing to work with Sister Lakes Fire Department and sit down with them. Our township board, I believe Don Blackman's been in the fire station one time. I think they need to work with them. That's something for everybody. It benefits all of us. Landis said that Pride Care does transfers. Absolutely right. They make good money. That's why we're not going to have an ambulance here, because they're out doing a transfer. They're not here 24/7. Sorry to tell you folks. They sit in the station a lot, but they ain't there all the time. They're doing transfers. They can't afford to sit. They're moving. So I think they need to sit down and work with the ambulance.
Wow, what a great question. I don't have the answer. I do know that all the way up to this point, and I'm sure all the way around the table, you're going to hear all sorts of stuff. And what I feel and what I'm hearing is that the misinformation from this whole recall, both sides, is creeping back into this question. What is it? More millage, no millage, 10,000, 100,000, 140,000, 90,000? I don't know. I've heard all the stories that I'm sure all of you have been entertained with. But at the end of the day, we need the correct information. I don't know how the Silver Creek thing's going to pan out. I don't know how much really the millage is. I don't know how much Sister Lakes Ambulance really needs. I don't know really, are they really upcharging us on this Coloma ambulance service? I don't know. I've heard all the stories, but they're all different. Nobody can give me exact facts. That's what it is. It's an emotional thing. So my answer is, I don't know. I need to find out. And none of us here can sit here and tell you definitively it's going to be more millage or less millage, 100,000, 40,000. At the end of the day, we have an ambulance service here. We're going to keep the ambulance service here, and we're going to figure out a way to make it happen. That's what I promise you. Thank you.
Well, I
guess I have a question first before I can answer the question, and the question is, what do you want? Have you been asked what you want? What do you want with the ambulance service? What do you want with the fire department? Has the board ever came out and said, what do you want? That's what's wrong with this township. Before I could make a decision on any of this thing, I gotta know what you want. The majority. Personal opinion. I don't like millages. Yes, I was a township police officer because of a millage down here. I would have still had my job. I would have went back and worked out of Pawpaw. You're paying big taxes. I'm paying big taxes. Everybody in here is paying big taxes to get services that are supposed to be provided by the state, the county, the government. I don't like to have to pay an additional millage for a service that you're already paying taxes on and should be provided to you. In some instances, may be very necessary. That's when it goes back to the people. The people have to decide whether they want to pay that millage or not, whether they want to vote to have a millage or not. My personal opinion is, I don't like millages. I don't like paying 2 and 3 times over for a service that my taxes on my house and my taxes on my wages should be paying for. Government's trying to get us out of a bad hole. They want to raise the sales tax and things like that. Okay, raise the sales tax another penny. Provide the services out of that money. Don't keep throwing millages on the people. The road millage that we have, county's supposed to maintain the county roads. We're paying for another millage to do spot checks here and there, you know, tar and feather they call it, you know the kind of roads I'm talking about. Everybody hates them. But anyway, I don't think we should have to pay 2 and 3 times using millage for the same services that should be already provided to us by the state and the government that we're paying taxes for. As far as Silver Creek, don't know what's going to happen down in Silver Creek. We don't know what's going to happen here in Sister Lake. But I will tell you this, it should have been looked into a lot deeper before the decision was made. Again, I don't like Cologne Pride Ambulance Service. Maybe it's a personal thing, but everybody that I talk to, I get a negative impact from. So I think it should have been looked into a lot further. Sister Lakes can charge $1,500 for a run if they want to. They've been charging $500 for a run. Coloma, charging $1,500, $1,200 to $1,500 a run because they hook you up. They treat you as you're a critical care patient for every run that they take you to the hospital on, and then you're going to get the big bill. So, I don't like millages. Maybe they're necessary. Need to take it to the people.
Villages have their place in townships. Right now, I do not see where a special millage to subsidize another business in our area would be fair to the township residents. There's been businesses in Keeler Township that have failed. No one's helped them. If we can get something for the current tax millage we have, regardless of what Silver Creek does, I just think we need to be fiscally responsible to all the Keeler Township residents here.
I think if you go down to the Silver Creek Township Hall, you'll find a letter from Tom Gear, the president of the Sister Lakes Fire Department. The letter, I believe, is dated August the 9th of 2011. He states in his letter, as you can see, Sister Lakes needs between $200,000 and $210,000 in tax subsidy in order to exist. Currently, they have a village proposal in Silver Creek Township that will generate about $143,000 if it passes. If it does not pass, what you're asking is, would the township board be justified really in asking you folks to pick up the difference? I think it might be very difficult for our township residents to feel an additional $100,000 to $5,000 in addition to the millage that were already paid. I would have to agree that if the service can be provided for the existing millage, it should be done. And you have to look beyond the existing millage, because the last time the millage was placed on before our Keeler Township residents had passed, the time before it did not pass. We do not always support millages here in Keeler Township.